planning on getting the silage tarp area planted. We've got our beans and squash and watermelon seeds soaking, which is recommended just to help get the germination started for each seed. All right, so let's go see what Ricky's gotten done so far and what we need to do next.
So we've got down here to the silage tarp area. We had the silage tarp on this area for probably about 4 weeks. It didn't do a 100% job of killing all the vegetation. What the silage tarp is supposed to do is smother all the vegetation. It dies, it also kills any seeds left in the soil, and it composts everything so that when you pull the silage tarp back, you have a sterile seed bed that's more enriched with nutrients because of the organic matter that's being composted in. So we do have a few plants that hung on. I think that's probably Johnson grass, which Johnson grass is very vigorous and will probably try to grow back. But what we're gonna do today, when we work this soil and work in some more organic matter, compost and manure to build the Three Sisters mounds, we'll go ahead and dig up as much of this as that we can and pull the rest of the plants out. We're also gonna move the chicken tractor. We had the chicken tractor down here to let them finish off some of this tender vegetation that was left over. They've done a pretty decent job, and if we had more time, we'd probably leave them down here for a few more days to let them finish it off and kind of till up the soil. But it's supposed to start raining tonight, and God willing, we're gonna get rain for the next 3 days because we sure need it. We've been through a bad drought. So we're gonna go grab all of the bags of compost and manure. We're gonna bring it down here, and we're gonna get started working in the soil and building the mounds. I just wanted to show you something real quick. Look how soft the soil is after that silage tarp being on it. It's very easy to work right now, so I'm hoping that this isn't going to be a laborious task of digging up and making these mounds. So that's another thing I wanted to mention. When you make these Three Sisters mounds, you're not just piling dirt up on top of the soil surface. You're digging down about 6 inches to loosen up the compaction of the soil so that the roots have a good start of getting down and getting grounded. The goal is also to mix some of the amendments like the compost and manure down below the soil surface so that the roots have some good nutrients all the way down through. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. All right, let's look what we got here. There it is. Now, some of you may have been thinking, why in the heck is he digging in that mound twice with a shovel? I was kind of thinking the same thing myself about halfway through. I was mixing the compost and manure in with the native soil. That was a lot of work, and I fully believe in working smarter, not harder. So on the next mound, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix wheelbarrow buckets full of soil and the compost and manure, and then just dump it into the mound until I get it full. I think that'll be easier, but we'll see. So again, this one's got 3 bags of the compost manure mix. I can't say that I'm happy with the outcome. When you read about the Three Sisters mounds, specifically squash, pumpkins, watermelon, and corn, they're heavy feeders and they require highly amended soil. I don't think this is enough, even with the fertilizer I'm gonna add. So I think on the next mounds, I'm going to do 4 bags instead of 3. And I think that's gonna give them a better chance. What I'm gonna do with this mound is I'm just gonna add some of this Miracle Grow garden soil that we got from Sam's Club. It's all purpose and it's for in-ground use. So I think that'll give it the boost that it needs. When I was walking off, I saw a grub on the ground. Grubs are not good for the garden, but you know what they are good for? Chickens. Oh, buddy. Yep, you just don't have a chance, man. Yeah. Better for a chicken. Look, girls. Oh, yeah. Yep. Like that, didn't you? Good girl. All right, we'll see if this next mound goes better. If not, I'm just gonna hire some of you to come do it for me. Okay, so I've got the mounds done, and what I'm doing right now is I'm watering them in before planting the seeds. Because I want to compact the soil a little bit so that I'm planting the seeds at the right depth. And I don't like watering after I plant seeds and there's a lot of dips and depressions in the soil. So I'm just getting that taken care of right now. So I've got the seeds placed on top of the mound, and I'm going to show you how they are arranged and the spacing before I press them down in at their correct depth. So what I did is this mound again is a 5-foot diameter. The corn you want to lay out in a 3-foot circle diameter in the mound. So this corn is a white corn that we have. I put 2 here just to make sure that we get germination. If both of them germinate, I'll thin them out. Inside that circle of corn, about 3 inches from each corn seed, is where you put your beans. So the beans are right in front of each kernel of corn, all the way around the inside of the mound. And then lastly, we put our squash or melons on the outside perimeter, about in the last 6 to 8 inches of the outside of the mound, probably about 3 to 4 inches from the corn. And you're only going to plant 4 seeds per mound. So think of this as a clock. You'll put a seed at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And that's because your squash or your melons are a trailing vine, and they're going to trail out 5 to 10 feet past the mound. And they're going to spread too, so you don't want them too close together. So I'm just going to keep going around the mound and get all these pushed in at the correct depth. Now, the reason that you put the beans about 3 inches from the corn is that once the corn starts to grow and the beans start to grow, you'll eventually start directing your bean vine toward the corn stalk, and then once it reaches the corn stalk, you kind of help it, train it to go up the stalk. All right, so I've got all the seeds planted at their correct depth. I'm going to give this mound a little bit more water just to make sure that it's adequately soaked. And then most of these seeds have a germination of about anywhere from 5 to 10 days. So we'll check back to see the progress. Hey everybody, welcome back. So it's been a few weeks since we planted the Three Sisters mounds. So I'm going to show you the progress that we made. Come on over here. You can see that all of them sprouted up. Back in this corner we've got corn and some squash and a few peas I think popped up here. Over in this corner there are some sunflowers and pumpkins. And then this is the best mound that it seems so far. Here we've got pumpkins and corn. And then if you look in the middle, some very good progress on the beans. We've got some purple variety here, and then some green peas in the middle. So pretty soon I'm going to start directing these bean vines when they start to lay over onto the corn, and then they'll start trellising up the corn. The corn's still a little bit short, but it's going to grow pretty tall, anywhere between 5 to 7 feet. I'm very, very happy with the progress on the pumpkins. They look really well. And then one thing I decided to do, I love scallop squash. A lot of people call them patty pan. I decided to put this just right out in the middle of everything because these are a bush variety. Hi, Dolly. These are a bush variety. They're not going to trail and spread. They're just going to grow tall, but they don't get that big. So they shouldn't be bothered by the trailing squash or pumpkin vines. And I'm pretty happy with the way that they're progressing as well. These last 4 mounds over here, I didn't get planted the same day. I planted these a little later, so the progress isn't as far along as the first 4 mounds I just showed you. And then also I didn't plant the corn, sunflowers, or the peas or the beans on the same day. So what's progressing right now are the squash or the pumpkins that I planted on the outside of the mound. But on this one, I believe this is a sunflower that's coming up here. And as you can see, our little baby goats, Dolly and Cleopatra, and the little buck, they like to play around in the garden area. So I'm pretty certain that they've contributed to some of these not sprouting up. They may have also eaten some of the seedlings off, but that's okay. We expected some loss in this area because we don't have it fenced in. What we anticipated is we were going to get lost by rabbits, but we probably got some lost by goats. But that's fine. We're still pretty pleased with the way that it turned out. Over here you can see that there's several sunflowers that have come up, and then squash on the exterior. We do have a new sprout coming up right here. This is going to be squash. This is probably a butternut squash variety that I planted out here. And one thing that we did mention when we first planted this area is that we were probably going to have to be fighting the Johnson grass again. And indeed we are. You can see where the Johnson grass is coming back up. So we're just going to have to manage that, keep it mowed down, weed whack out here, pull as we can. Some of you may not know, but Johnson grass actually has a vast root structure called rhizome. So when you pull one Johnson grass stalk, you're not actually getting the entire root system. They're all connected. It's like an entire field of Johnson grass almost is a connected living organism. That's why it's so vigorous. When you mow or weed eat or pull up a certain area, the root structure is still there, and it's just going to grow back. So what we're going to do in this area now is I'm collecting wood chips, and we're going to be filling in this area with wood chips. That'll help some with the Johnson grass coming out. But what's the most important benefit of the wood chips out here is that it's going to hold moisture in the ground and allow these plants to retain some moisture, because it's very hot here now and we won't have to water as much. We're also going to be bringing wood chips into our other garden areas, and we're going to be finishing one of our raised beds and putting an arch between the two for a trellis for some cucumbers and squash and cantaloupe that we'll have there. So we're excited to show you that. We've got a video coming up where we're going to do a garden tour, and we'll be happy to show you all those areas. But for now, we're going to end the video here, and Rachel and I are going to go enjoy the sunset and a nice fire. So we'll see you next time.